everybody. This is Armida Abreu Martinez, and I am back with another session for you guys. And today is Ask the Expert. And because we are growing, which I'm really excited, I'm hearing that we're growing and people are really signing up and people are really taking advantage of the trainings that we're giving and the information that we have available for you guys. So I'm really excited for us and for you guys as well, because this program is all about growing together and building as a team, which I love. It's all about teamwork. I think when you work as a team, you can accomplish anything and go further than if you were going at it by yourself. So thank you guys for joining. Keep telling your friends and family about it. And with that being said, today's training for Ask the Expert, it's all about well, the training topic, it's learn how to heal your attachment style to create a deeper connection. Before I jump into the training, I always like to just give a briefly statement of who I am. So you know who's training you, right? Like, who's this girl that's giving me this training today? So for those of you who haven't watched any of my trainings, I am a life and relationship coach for Divine Growth Coaching and Boomerang Gift to Get. And I became a life and a relationship coach because I had my own struggles. It was my own transformation that pushed me. My transformation brought purpose into my life. You know, I guess sometimes we don't, when we're going through difficult things in life, and we're in the midst of it all, we can't see how something magical and beautiful can be born out of that, because I surely would have never thought I would be doing the work that I'm doing right now. I've always had a passion for helping people, for being of service. I am a licensed social worker by trade, and I worked at a nonprofit foster care agency for many years. So I've always had that passion of helping people, but I never thought I would be a coach. That was something that was born out of my transformation. And by transformation, I mean by my painful transformation. I went through a whole Black Night of the Soul, spiritual awakening. I was once in a lot of pain. I felt stuck. I felt unhappy. I felt unfulfilled. I had a low self-confidence. I really was at a really heavy place in my life. I wasn't always like that. I was a happy, outgoing person for a long time. And I became a mom. And those of you who are watching this training and you guys are moms, you guys understand sometimes when we become a mom, it becomes our main focus, our main priority, which is wonderful, and it should be. But we have to find that balance of not losing ourselves and losing our voice, which is something that I did. And I thought I was the only one. And as I'm training and meeting people and coaching people, I'm realizing that that's a real struggle for a lot of women, finding that balance after you've become a mom, right? So with that being said, the training about today is about relationships, because it's how to heal your attachment style to create a deeper connection, right? And what I noticed is when I was stuck and feeling this way, I was suffering. All of my relationships were suffering. And that was a great deal of more pain and suffering for me, because love and connection it's a basic human need for us. And if we're not finding a way to meet that need for ourselves, it can impact our lives and all of the parts of our lives, our work life, our love life, not only our love life, but our work life, our relationship with our kids, all areas of our lives can start to suffer if we're not taking care of all of our needs. And so once I went through this journey, I became really passionate to help others move beyond that so that they can learn to connect to themselves, which is the work. It all comes back to you. When you do this work and you heal yourself and you connect to yourself, everything in your life just starts to blossom and thrive. So with that being said, just a little brief history about myself. I always like to be really vulnerable and just let you guys know why I do what I do. It was really born out of a place of pain and suffering, but it became a beautiful transformation. And that's why I'm here today. So with that being said, we're going to talk about our training. So the first attachment style, and this was me, was the anxious pursuing style. So I realized when I started going through my journey, started learning a lot of different enlightening things about myself, was that I had this attachment style where I was always anxious and pursuant, right? And so what this means is you're chasing, right? So you're constantly chasing the other person. You're checking their social media. You're overthinking things. You're rereading messages, text messages. You're going over different kinds of conversations that you guys may have had. You're playing them in your head and you're trying to figure out what you could have said differently, what you could have done differently, how you could have handled things differently. And you really become obsessive about different ways that you can about how you could have handled something instead of just letting it flow and letting it be for what it is. And sometimes we can tend to put this person on a pedestal. And what happens is if we put someone on a pedestal, and we're not, and what we're saying is if we're putting someone up here is that we're up here, we're not at the same level with them. So our job is to find a way to to bring that level where it's even, right? And to bridge that difference so that you guys can be on a level, on a playing level field. So if your style of attachment is anxious, I want you to really slow down and ground yourself. And usually this type of attachment happens because at some point in our lives, we experience some kind of neglect or abandonment, and usually at a very young age. And we didn't know how to process those emotions. And then we told ourselves a story that we weren't good enough and that people could leave us and people could abandon us. So we tell ourselves these stories that then play out in our adult relationships. And I did, and I'm very open about things. I did experience as a child, some abandonment issues. And so I didn't realize though, that that's what was birthing this part of me that was anxious and seeking, chasing love and affection, right? And then what happens, especially for a female, is that in a relationship, there's like feminine energy and masculine energy. And the masculine energy is the chasing. They love the chase. They love the challenge. It's in their genes. They're wired to chase us. But if as women, feminine energy is all about being in flow, being intuitively, being confident, being sexy, being sassy, really standing in your ground and in your power, right? And what happens is, as a woman, especially when we become anxious and we start chasing the men, then it takes them off balance because we've stepped into our masculine energy, which doesn't give the space for them to meet us in that masculine energy. And then what happens is that they either chase away from us, move away from us, which causes us to further and further chase because they feel like the energy is off balance. They can't quite tell you what it is because sometimes they may not even be able to point it out to you.
On a scale of 1 to 5, would you give yourself a 5 on achieving what you want in life? If your answer is anything less than a 5, right now, I have something awesome for you. Achieving your goals and living your life at a 5 isn't easy. Most people aren't prepared to focus, stay disciplined, and do the everyday work that is necessary to achieve amazing results. But since you're watching this, then I'm guessing that you're not one of those people. And this is an opportunity that will change your life. Give to Get is a global program that brings together world-class coaching and combines it with empowering masterminds and networking opportunities. We provide 5-star guidance for the price of a cup of coffee a day. To find out more, click on the link in the description of this coaching session.
But they can feel that there's been an energy shift within the relationship. So that either pushes them to push away from you, which pushes us who get anxious to further pursue, right? Or it relaxes the men to move into their feminine energy. And that's when they become very relaxed. And then we feel like we're their moms. And either way, we're not happy because we don't want to be their mom. And then then we become really, we become angry, we become bitter, we feel like we're their mothers, and that's not a place for us to be. But if we're stepping into the masculine energy, and what they're doing is they're just relaxing into their feminine energy, because we both have a balance of masculine and feminine energy. And so then that causes issues within the relationship. And because there needs to be a yin and a yang in order for there to be tension, in order for them to be, that chemistry, that tension, that yin and that yang, there has to be a good mixture of feminine and masculine energy. And so That's something that I had to learn. And it's something because we live in an age right now, right, where women, we're empowered, and which is great. You know, we're go-getters, we're running businesses, we're building empires, we're growing families on our own, right? Sometimes we don't even need a man to build a family. And all this stuff is great, but it's causing us to suffer in our relationships. So it's finding knowing when to bring that masculine energy will be very helpful in helping you in your intimate relationship. Because when we're in that intimate relationship, we need to be able to tune in back into that feminine energy. And this goes whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or if you're not, because at the end of the day, in order for there to be attraction, there needs to be a masculine and a feminine energy, like yin and a yang, to have that attraction. So it could be in a same-sex relationship, there's always that masculine energy and that feminine energy. So it doesn't matter if you're in a straight relationship, if you're in a same-sex relationship, there's always that balance, because in order to have that connection, that pull, that attraction, there has to be that balance of both, right? So if you are in a same-sex relationship, it's finding, if you're the feminine energy person in the relationship, learning when to step back and really allow the masculine energy to step up. Because what happens is when we're chasing, we don't allow that masculine energy to step up and do those things that we want them to do. As a feminine energy, we want to be chased. We want to be, we want to be acknowledged. We want men to, really, especially our partner, to really take care of us. But when we step into that masculine energy, we don't allow them to do that. So it goes back to healing that inner part of us that felt abandoned and felt wounded as a child. And the best things I can tell you to fix this part of this type of attachment is to really tune into your body. Catch yourself when you're looking through messages, when you're rereading old messages, when you're playing relationships, conversation that you guys had, when you're about to check your social media, when you're overthinking things. Just really catch yourself, learn to be aware of it, and find out what the intentional energy behind it is. And always pause, right? Pause. We always want to learn to respond and not react. So when you catch yourself being overly anxious about something that's going on within the relationship, or with the person you're in a relationship, learn to pause and really ground yourself and really get curious about what's going on in that moment for you, right? So that bring it to your body, feel how you're feeling in your body. Like, this is something you can do very quickly. So if you find yourself overthinking doing any of the things I just talked about, just pause and really tune into your body. See where in your body you're feeling the tension, where you're feeling the energy, where you're feeling the heaviness, and just really breathe into that part of your body. Just really breathe it. That will calm your nervous system down, and that will bring you back into the present moment. And then once you do that, then jump into a task, jump into doing, cooking, jump into cleaning the closet, really start rewiring how you're responding to that situation. And another thing you can do besides that is, or with that is, nurture your inner child. So I always say that when you're going, once you pause and you're feeling where in your body you're feeling this and you're allowing the energy to process, show up for yourself, right? Because at some point in our life, when we were younger, we experienced something that led us to believe that we were going to be abandoned and left, right? So our job is to show up for that person, right? We get to show up for that little child or that wounded person who felt abandoned. Show up for them and nurture them, because you need a lot of nurturing. So when you catch yourself and you tune into your body, don't start judging yourself. Don't start judging the other person. Don't judge the situation. Just really allow yourself to feel the feels, right? But from a place of love and compassion. Just pause, right? And really hold yourself. Once you've taken a few deep breaths and you've breathed into whatever part of your body you're feeling tense, hold yourself and tell yourself, I love you. I'm not going to leave you. I'm here for you. I'm always going to have your back. I support you. I'm not going to abandon you. Tell yourself all those words that you may want to have, that you were craving at a certain point in your life and you didn't get to hear from somebody else. It's amazing, because you have the power to show up for yourself now. And that is a beautiful thing and a beautiful place to be. So that's one of the things that one of the tips that I can give you. So make sure for feeling an anxious style, right? So if you're feeling anxious, really learn to turn into your body and to what you're feeling. This is going to be very helpful. And then show up for yourself with love and compassion and without judging yourself, the situation, the relationship, or the person. And just really let the emotions process through you and nurture yourself at that moment. And sometimes if you close your eyes, you'll be able to see that version of you at an earlier stage that needed that love and that support. And you can look at yourself in your eyes and just really honor yourself and love on yourself and show up for yourself, because the more you show up for yourself, the more in control you're going to feel, the more self-confidence, the more secure you're going to feel within yourself and your relationship. So that's the first attachment style. So that's an anxious style. Then the next style, it's the avoidant style. So it's the complete opposite. So it's so complete opposite from the anxious styles. So the avoidant style wants distance, right? So at some point in their lives, the avoidant style may have felt that intimacy, closeness, connection wasn't safe or secured, or something happened, right? It could be anything, but they experienced something, usually at an early age when they didn't have the tools to tell themselves a different story. Something happened to them at that moment that led them to believe and to tell themselves a story that connection, intimacy, love, closeness was not safe. And so these type of people tend to feel suffocated, and tend to get scared when someone is pursuing. So you there's people, so they feel like instinct must learn to focus a relationship or with the person that you're in the present moment, and learn how to really soothe yourself. Just like in anxious style, it's really when you're feeling scared, when someone's getting intimate and close to you and you're starting to feel like it's unsafe, it's really pausing at that moment, being aware, and maybe asking for a few minutes, like I need a few minutes, right? So I just to bring this home, I'm going to tell you a story about one of my clients, because I think this brought this home. This is a good way to bring it home to you guys. So I had a client who experienced something as a child, and she was very avoidant. And her relationship, so she was very avoidant, was afraid of intimacy, didn't feel safe during intimacy and connection. Her partner was very the opposite, very in your face, and I love you and I want to be with you. And so they were having issues because they were triggering each other all the time. So I had told her, I said, okay, so I want you guys to work together and come up with a safe word. Come up with a safe word that either one of you can say when you're feeling triggered. And so they came up with a word. And now when they were spending time together and he was trying to get close and she was feeling triggered and like it wasn't safe anymore, she would say the safe word. Now, at this point, it was meant for them to pause, for her to really take a few minutes, tune into her body, nurture herself, and tell herself that she was safe in this moment. That same thing as the anxious style, just holding yourself, pause, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, tune into your body, and really connect with yourself. And you can do that in front of the person, or you can pause and just say, I need a few minutes, go to the bathroom, walk away somewhere where you can have a few minutes to yourself. But because you are an avoidance style and you want to avoid the connection, the deal was you get 5 to 10 minutes to yourself, you ground yourself, and then you show up back in the relationship and you make that connection, right? So you go nurture yourself for 5, 10, maybe I think our agreement was 15 minutes, nurture yourself, really do that inner child work. Like, just say me like Armida, you're safe. It's okay. You're loved. It's okay to let love in. I love you. Nothing's going to happen to you, whatever it is. And then once you get to that grounded space, show back up in the relationship. And then what I had them do was really hold hands before anything was spoken. She will come back, say, okay, I'm ready. hold hands. And then before they even said anything, she had to tell him 3 things that she was grateful for him for. And then he would tell her 3 things that he was grateful for her, so that the conversation could start from an elevated space. So they started meeting each other in that way. So she was sometimes they wouldn't even speak for days. And we got it down to where she would take that 15, it started off 15, 20 minutes, take that break. And then she had to make a conscious choice to show up back in the relationship and make that connection, because their relationship was suffering because of it. And needless to say, this really helped and saved their relationship. And they just kept doing that over and over again. And eventually she got into a place from always redirecting. Every time she wanted to shut down, I told her, if you want to make this work and if you want to overcome this is when you get to make a choice. And now you're aware of it. So at this point, you need to choose, are you going to shut down, or are you going to let love in, right? And so she became aware of that. And what she started to do was really taking that space and then showing back up from the relationship and allowing the intimacy to build, right? But there were rules. They had, they both had boundaries, which was great, because then it helped her feel safe. So they had those boundaries, like, okay, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm going to give you the safe word, right? You both got to be, communication is everything. You have to be on the same page. I'm going to give you a safe word. That means I need a break, 10, 15 minutes. And then I'm going to show up back in the relationship. And from this place, after I've been able to nurture myself and reassure myself that things are safe, then we can connect from this space. And this was a great place for them to heal that. So hopefully that story, I know for me, stories are amazing. You could tell me anything you want. And if you tell me a story, it really brings it home for me. So if you guys are watching this, I hope that story brought it home for you guys. So the avoidant style. So just reassuring the other person, take things slow, set your boundaries, but don't walk away from, like I said earlier, don't do things differently. If you're used to shutting down, start doing it differently, so you can start rewiring that habitual way of being and creating a new version of yourself. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. So the way these are the 2 attachments. You're either avoidant or you're anxious, right? So you need to figure out which one of them are you, and then find a way to show up for yourself, to honor yourself, to really, really nurture yourself from that high elevated space. Remember that the way to heal any of these attachment styles is to start working on building your own self-confidence and self-worth. And the way you do this is by connecting to feeling your emotions, allowing yourself to feel the emotions, to process the emotions, and to connect to yourself from that space, to honor yourself and nurture yourself from that high elevated space. And that's pretty much it. That's our training for today. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Armida. Always is fantastic. How do you distinguish between the 2 of them? If you're looking at, a situation, what characteristics, what kinds of things would you see that would help you align one or the other?
Well, if you're anxious, you're usually the one chasing. You're chasing the person, you're like I said, you're either rereading text messages, you're replaying conversations that you may have had with a person. You're constantly on alert, thinking that there's something going on. You're almost putting the other person on a pedestal. When you're an anxious style, you don't feel like you're good enough, worthy enough of love, because you felt abandoned and neglected in the past. So you almost put other people on a pedestal. And so you're almost like seeing yourself like they're better than you, they're above you, as opposed to seeing the other person as an equal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And for avoidance style, it's the complete opposite. So you're disconnected, you avoid intimacy. So these are the people who, when things start getting, start getting hot and there's intimacy and there's feelings, they may start to shut down, to pull away. That's when you get that hot and that cold behavior that people sometimes like to talk about, like, oh, he's getting hot and cold, or she's hot and cold, because one minute they're opening up, but then it gets too deep. And then they start pulling away again, because they just don't know how to process and handle that deep connection, that intimacy, because at some point they experienced something that led them to believe that closeness, intimacy was unsafe. So they start coming in because they're craving love and connection because it's a basic human need. But if it starts getting too uncomfortable for them because it starts to feel unsafe, they start to pull away again.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I thought that I just wanted to get confirmed from the expert. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Armida.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And just one last thing that I just wanted to mention is when you're in any relationship, this is so important because I know this is something that I've seen my clients struggle with and I've struggled with. Is anytime we get into a new relationship, or even if we've been in a relationship for a long time, we lose the sense of who we are, right? Because we get to this place where we want to please the other person and we want to do everything together. Which is great. It's nice that you guys want to spend together. But one tip that I got to give, if you want to keep that juiciness and that connection, it's okay to take time apart. And it's okay for you both to keep doing those things that you're both interested in. Like, don't give up all your likes and habits and, sports or things that you may like to do just to be around each other. Make time for those things that light you up, that bring you back to life on your own. Because if you can find things, if you can keep doing those things, or if you haven't, go back to those things that you were doing before you were in a relationship that gave you some sense of worth. Maybe you liked working out, maybe you liked playing tennis or golfing or whatever, but all that can give you a sense of belonging, a sense of self-worth. And if you can do that on your own, when you do come back together, there's more juiciness, more to share. There's more excitement because you're finding something outside of each other that fulfills you. And when you come together, you can share that fulfillment with each other. And it's a great place to be. And I think sometimes when we get into relationships, and I'm guilty of this myself, I was losing myself in a relationship and giving up my friends, giving up the things that I liked. And then I felt, and then we become bitter and resentful because we're not really taking care of our everything. We feel like we need to give up everything. And that's not how it works. You get to keep all those things. You get to find a balance. And then when you get back together, your relationship is even that much more stronger.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.